Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Ashrafil Anbiya wal Mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We concluded last week's lesson by looking at the rules, the regulations, the adabs and etiquettes of giving gifts in Islam. And I also mentioned the wisdom and the hikmah in giving gifts to one's Muslim brother, as mentioned in the hadith of Sunan Bayhaqi, that by giving gifts, tahabu, it creates love and peace and tranquility. And in another hadith of Sunan Tirmidhi, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that by giving gifts, it takes away the rancor and the ill feeling one may have for another Muslim brother. So these were the virtues with regards to giving gifts, and I also mentioned some rulings and some contemporary issues with regards to giving gifts. Now in this week's lesson, we're just going to continue with this particular topic firstly, and then in the second part of the lesson, we're going to then touch on the next topic, which is here in Mukhtasar al-Quduuri, and that is with regards to luqata, i.e. lost objects, missing objects. So if you were to say, for example, find a mobile phone, were to find a watch, then what are the procedure, what's the guidelines the Sharia says in terms of making an announcement, finding the rightful owner. Just say, for example, if you were to find some money in the masjid, what to do with that particular money? Do we put it into the donation box? If we find some money outside in the car park, what do we do with this money? Do we put it in our pockets and pretend nothing happened? So what do we do in that particular situation? So this will inshallah be the second topic which we will look at later with regards to lost and missing objects. Now we'll start the first part of the lesson with regards to gifts and a couple of rulings which we need to touch on. The first ruling which the author Imam Quduuri rahimahullah mentions is that gifts or taking gifts or accepting gifts is very, very similar to transactions, very, very similar to buying and selling. Now, as I mentioned before, that when it comes to buying and selling, there has to be offer and acceptance. So you're offering to sell this mobile phone, and then the person, the buyer, accepts to buy this particular mobile phone. The exact same principles apply when it comes to giving gifts. The wahib, the giver, he has to offer the gift. He has to actually offer to you. You can't just, like, for example, just take his mobile phone without his permission, because that there will be stealing, sariqah. So he has to actually offer it to you. Sometimes people have this bad habit of hinting to a gift, like, come on, Mufti Sahib, just, pass this mobile phone and so on. So remember, just for you asking for a gift or hinting to a gift, that doesn't become a gift. So the wahib and the giver, he has to give the gift, he has to offer the gift. And also another important prerequisite for this particular gift to be accepted and valid in the eyes of the Sharia, and that is that the receiver, he has to accept it. Sometimes what could happen, somebody may give you a gift, but if you don't accept it, if you say, look, Maulana Saab or Imam Saab or Abdul Rahman or Abdullah, you spent too much money buying this mobile phone, or you spent too much money buying this laptop. You know what, I don't want to accept it, just give it to somebody else. So if the receiver doesn't accept the gift, then it's not going to be a valid gift. So the contract or for this particular, for the gift to be considered valid, there's two things. One is there has to be the offer from the giver's side, and there also has to be acceptance from the receiver's side. After these two conditions are found, there's also another third condition which scholars and jurists place, and that is that the receiver, after accepting the gift, he has to take qabza, i.e. he has to take that gift into his possession in that very same gathering. He has to take that into his possession, what we call in Urdu and Arabic qabza. He has to actually take that into his ownership, into his possession. And that is not the case when it comes to buying and selling, because what could happen is that over the phone you can actually buy something. You can say to a friend that, okay, I want to buy your mobile phone, or nowadays on eBay and on Amazon and so on over the internet, we actually buy things, but we don't actually take that into our possession. That's allowed. When you're doing buying and selling, when you buy something, it's not necessary that there and there you have to take the item or the possession into your, the item or the property into your possession. If you were to take the item or the property into your possession a week later, 2 weeks later, then that is allowed and that is permissible. However, when it comes to gifts, when it comes to hibah and hadiyah, the prerequisite is that after accepting the gift, you then in that very same gathering have to take the gift into your possession. If you just leave it around and you walk away, then it means that you haven't actually accepted the gift. So you have to there and there, do something. Just for example, if it's something which is very, very heavy, that just say somebody bought you a massive, say, sofa, so you can't actually put it into your pocket in that situation. So in that situation, you do something, you signal, or you do some indication or ishara that, okay, you've accepted it and I'm going to get someone to take this sofa for me, that's okay. But things which you can actually take with you physically, like say pens, attar, mobile phones and so on, so you need to do the qabza, you need to take that item into your possession, otherwise it would not be considered as a valid gift according to the laws of the Sharia. Another rule with regards to gift which the author mentions here is that the gift which you are giving, it has to be mahuzatan maqsumatan, which means that it has to be separate and segregated from another person's ownership. Now, what this particular text is telling us is that when you give a gift, the condition is that the gift, it cannot be such that it's owned by somebody else. So just say, for example, you own a house or a property, you own 50% of it, and just say Abdullah, he owns another 50% of it. Now, in that situation, you can't go to, say, Abdul Rahman and say, oh, I've given this house as a gift to you. Why? Because this particular house or this particular property is also owned by somebody else. So therefore, either number one, you have to either buy out the other partner's share, and after you buy him out, then you can gift the entire property to somebody else. Without that, you won't be able to gift it to somebody else. However, if, say, for example, if it's a big property and you have segregated your share, your 50% from the other person's 50%. Like, generally speaking, when it comes to buildings, like just say if it's a takeaway or a restaurant, no one actually says that, just say you got two partners for a takeaway restaurant. No one will actually say that, okay, I own the restaurant from the front door to the kitchen. And the other partner says, oh, I own from the kitchen to the back door. The both partners own the restaurant, but they say that they equally own it. So now in that situation where it's undivided ownership of a property, you can't give that as a gift. So one of the partners cannot gift his takeaway or restaurant to the other person. Why? Because it's not separate, it hasn't been divided, it hasn't been segregated. However, if one partner segregated and separated his share of the house, of the land, of the takeaway, of the property, then that segregated and divided share, he will be allowed to gift that to the receiver. So just for example, if you do have a scenario where one partner has separated and has divided the takeaway, and he legally owns, say, from the front door to the kitchen, so all that area, if he wants to now gift that to someone, that would be allowed. The third ruling here with regards to gifts, and this is something which is very, very important, and unfortunately sometimes parents are quite neglectful of this, and that is the ruling with regards to giving gifts to one's children. Now, bear this or remember this particular principle and usul in mind, and that is that the only time there is distinction between sons and daughters, or male children and female children, the only distinction is at the time of death when it comes to your inheritance and your mirath. That's the only distinction. As Allah says, لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ هَذِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ, which means that the time of death, when you pass away and now the Sharia, or now the time comes to distribute your estate and your property, only in that situation the Sharia says male children will get double of what a female child gets. So just for example, if there's one son and one daughter, and the father who's passed away is left behind, say, £90,000, so £60,000 would go to the son and 30,000 will go to the daughter. So it's only at the time of death, when it comes to distributing the property and the taraka, only in that situation there is a distinction between male children and female children. However, when the father is alive or when the mother is alive and he or she want to give some kind of gifts, then it is necessary, it is wajib that they do musawat, i.e. they do barabari sarabari, i.e. they are equal when it comes to giving gifts to the sons and the daughters. Yeah, you've given a gift to a particular son, you also have to give that gift to that daughter as well. You've got elder son, so you gave him a gift, you need to give the same gift to your younger son. And remember, this happens, the same musawat applies whether they are children, whether they are immature and nabalig, or whether they are mature and baligh. So even like say later on, when the father is just about to pass away and he says to one son, you could take this property, but then his younger son, because he's a bit like sharir and messes around, the father said, no, I'm not going to give him anything, then that would be considered wrong, that would be considered impermissible. So what I'm trying to say is that every son, every child, whether they're male or female, there has to be musawat, there has to be equality when it comes to giving gifts. It's mentioned in the books of fiqh that the only situation where you can give, say for example, one son more than the other son, or say one daughter more than the other daughter, or one son more than the daughter, or a daughter more than the son, is, as mentioned in the books of fiqh, if there is a wajh tarjih. Wajh tarjih means that if there is a valid reason, only then you can give more to one son over the other, or one daughter over the other, or one son over the daughter, or one daughter over the son. And the valid reason they've given in the books of fiqh is such as لِطَلَبِ الْعِلْمِ, seeking knowledge, acquiring knowledge. Sometimes what could happen is that you've got two sons and one of them you're sending to madrasa, just say sending them to Blackburn or Darlum Berry or Dewsbury. Now it is obvious that when you send a child to madrasa, his expenses are going to be more than that son who you are not sending to madrasa but you're sending him to state school. Because obviously, first and foremost, the fees you have to pay. Also, your son is going to be away from home, so pocket money, living costs, food. If he's going by train, then the price of the train ticket. So it is obvious in that situation, the father has to give more to the son. Whereas the son who's living at home, where the father is buying the food, doing everything for him, he's going to state-funded school where there's no extra cost, then it is obvious that the son who you are sending for لِطَلَبِ الْعِلْمِ and acquiring knowledge, he's got like a preference here. There's a valid reason here. So therefore, in that situation, if you were to give that son who's gone for acquiring knowledge extra pocket money or extra gifts, extra clothes, then the son who's at home, then that would be allowed. Why? Because there's a valid and a legitimate reason. However, when they are both equal, in terms of just say both the sons are studying in the same madrasa or in a madrasa, or if both the sons are going to state-funded schools and so on, then in that situation you have to be equal with each one of them. Okay, if you are giving one of them a gift, you also have to give the other a gift. If both are going to madrasa and you are buying, say, a jubbah for one of the son, you also have to buy a jubbah for the other son, otherwise you'll be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. Okay, so basically the crux of this particular section when it comes to giving gifts and so on is, remember that number one, there has to be offer and acceptance when it comes to gifts. Also, the receiver, he has to take the gift into his possession, and other rulings making sure that when you are giving gifts, in particular to male children and female children, or your sons and daughters, make sure there is musawat and make sure there is equality. Otherwise, you'll be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. The next topic which we are going to look at in Arabic is called luqata. And luqata basically means lost objects or missing objects. So just say, for example, you find something, so what to do in that particular situation. And when we look at this particular topic, Kitab al-Luqta, you will find or you will realize how unique and how blessed the religion and the Sharia of Islam is. That is such a religion that every single aspect of our life is covered in the Sharia. Because you're probably thinking that why on earth the Sharia would have a chapter about missing objects? Because missing objects, you find something outside, it's got nothing to do with salah, it's got nothing to do with fasting, it's got nothing to do with zakat, it's got nothing to do with this, it's got nothing to do with that. You're probably thinking that why on earth there is a chapter about missing objects and lost objects in the Sharia. But that tells us how unique and how blessed this religion is, that for every single aspect of our life, there are rules and regulations. You find something, the Sharia, there are rules there telling you, okay, what to do with the object, how to find the original owner, or what to do if you can't find the original owner. So this is what we're going to touch on under this particular section. Now the first subtopic which I'm going to look at under this particular section about luqata is what is the ruling with regards to picking up a lost or a missing object. So just say, for example, you found something outside, a mobile phone, a jewelry, a diamond, a watch. So what should a person do with that situation? Should he first and foremost pick it up or not? What do the scholars and the imams say with regards to that? Now, according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he says that if you find a lost object or a missing object, the ruling is that it is wajib and obligatory to pick it up. And now this is the main condition. As long as you are confident that you are not going to betray and abuse this trust. Now what I mean by that is, sometimes what could happen, a person, he finds a mobile phone, very expensive mobile phone. Now initially, he had that good intention, ikhlas, that, okay, let me pick it up, I'm going to give it to the original owner. But then what happens is that, you know, when he picks it up, he puts it in his pocket, 10, 20 minutes later, he then thinks to himself, you know what, no one was there. No one knows that I've picked this mobile phone up. I might as well just keep it. Who's going to know? Who's going to find out? So Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said that, look, if somebody's got, or he thinks that his intention may be corrupted later, or he thinks that, look, if he picks his mobile phone up, he's going to use it himself, he's not going to give it to the rightful owner, in that situation it becomes haram and unlawful for him to take it. However, if he thinks that he'll be able to, you know, look after it, he'll be able to find the original owner, he's not going to betray this trust, then in that situation it becomes wajib and obligatory for him to pick this item up. Now the next part is, okay, so you found something, you found a mobile phone, you found, say, a watch, you found some money, so you picked it up. Now what's the next procedure? What do you do next? Now it's mentioned in the hadith that after you pick it up, the second thing you have to do is you have to make an i'lan. You have to make an announcement. And what we mean by announcement or i'lan is that you have to take steps to make sure or to let everyone know in that particular area that a particular item, an expensive item has been found, and put your details at the bottom and basically make everyone know that an item has been found, and if they want to take this item, then come and see such and such a person. Now there's two ways you can do it. Either you can actually make an announcement, so you can actually stand there, make an announcement, or number two is that you can make a poster and then put the poster near to the place where the item has been found. Okay, so you could just write on a piece of paper that a watch has been found, and for further details, contact Abdullah and then your number. So that is what is known as i'lan, that you have to make an announcement. You have to take steps to find out who the original owner is. Because remember, this item is not yours, it's that guy's. So you need to take steps, and the way you take steps is by, releasing the information, telling people that item has been found. We'll come back to that later, whether you can make an announcement in the masjid or not. But where you found it, you should make an announcement, take steps, tell people who were there at that particular time that did you see anyone drop this item, do you know whose item, whose mobile phone is this, and then accordingly take the steps. So that's the second thing which you have to do, is to make an announcement and make an i'lan. The third question here is that, okay, after you've made the i'lan, after you've made the announcement, after you've made everyone aware that an item, a mobile phone has been found, how long would you make this announcement for? How long, is there like a cut-off period where you could say for sure that, look, this person is not going to come back for his item? Because remember, you can't make an announcement forever. So is there a particular cut-off time, a cut-off moment where you can say that this person, the original owner, is not going to come back for his item? Now, according to the other imams, like Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmad, they say that the cut-off period for an announcement is 1 year. So basically, after you made the announcement, you should continue making an announcement every now and then up to a year. And then afterwards, we'll look at later what you should then do next. However, according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he says that you will make an announcement according to the value of the item. What I mean by that is that if it's, say, for example, something which is quite expensive, then make an announcement for a year. If it's something which is, not that expensive, then make an announcement, say, for 6 months or 4 months or 5 months, according to what you think is something reasonable for that particular item. So just say if it's, say, for example, like a mobile phone. Now, mobile phone is something which you can easily find. You could, even if you lose an expensive one, you could, nowadays people have a lot of money, they probably could buy the same one, on the next day. So something like, I don't know, a month, 2 months for a mobile phone. If it's something really, really expensive, say like a diamond, then probably, yeah, fair enough, make an announcement for a year. But something like mobile phones, 2-3 months, say a watch, if it's an expensive one, 2-3 months for that. If it's, say, a watch which is not that expensive, probably for a month. Something which is not that expensive, then probably a week or 2 weeks. So according to the value of the item, make an announcement. So that's what Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah says. So that's the third ruling. Now the fourth step is that, okay, you made the announcement for a year, or you made the announcement for 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, a week, 2 weeks, and the original owner or the guy hasn't come. No one's contacted you regarding the mobile phone. No one has contacted you regarding the laptop. No one has contacted you regarding a bundle of money which was found. So what should you do in that situation? Now in that situation, the ruling is that we'll start off with money, that any money which is found and you've made the announcement and the owner hasn't come to collect it, then after the period, what you should do is that money, you should then donate it to the poor without the intention of reward and thawab from your side. Basically, you'll give it to the poor, and basically the reward and thawab will be from that individual whose money it is in reality. But what you will do is that you will just give it to the poor, and you won't make the intention that, okay, I'm getting reward and thawab. No, the reward and thawab will be coming from that person. But what you can't do is that you can't give it to the masjid. Okay, and this is where a lot of people get mixed up. They think, oh well, £10 has been found or £20 has been found in the masjid. Let's just put in the masjid, fund, the lillah, the donation. That's wrong. Remember, lost items, lost objects, the recipients of lost objects are the fuqara, the masakin. They're the poor and the needy. So if you find a lost, like say £20 note, you've taken steps to find the original owner, you made some announcement, no one has come forward, then what you should do is that money has to go to the poor. You can't put it in the masjid fund and just say, oh well, he won't mind, he was found in the masjid, he won't mind, I'll just put it in the masjid. No, you won't be able to do that. It has to go to the poor. Okay? I'll mention later that if it's something like very, very small amount of money found, then you can put it in the masjid donation. If it's say 1 pence was found, or 2 pence, or 5 pence, 10 pence, even say £1, then obviously something small amount, then fair enough, you can then put it into the masjid donation box. But something which is like a large amount, like say £10, £20, £50, £100, then for that you have to make an announcement, and if no one comes forward to take the money, then you have to give it to the poor without the intention of reward and thawab. Now this then takes me on to the next ruling, and that is that there are certain items or objects which the rule which I mentioned, or the steps which I mentioned regarding luqata, does not apply. Now I'll just mention a hadith. This is a hadith which can be found in Sunan Abu Dawood, narrated by Sayyiduna Jabir anhu, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, the items such as asa, i.e. sticks, was sold, i.e. whips, so the whips they would use to lash the horses and the animals, wal habli, and ropes, wa ashbahihi, and something similar. The hadith says yaltaqituhu rajulu yantafi'u bihi, which means that a person can benefit it from himself, i.e. he can use the item himself. There's no need for him to go through the steps of making an announcement and making an i'lan for a year or 6 months and then afterwards giving it to the poor. There's no need for him to do that. Now what we can gather from this particular hadith is that, items which is not that expensive, items which are always lying around and people don't really, people, that even if they've dropped it or left it, they're not going to be coming or rushing back and asking for the items, such as say pens, like pens, those like 20 pence pens, like Bic and all these, like where that even if he's left it in the masjid and he's gone to another area, he's not going to be running back or rushing back and asking, oh, where's my pen, and so on. So something like pens or pencils, okay, fair enough, if it's an expensive pen like a Parker or something like that, then understandable, if it's quite expensive, then you should make an announcement for it and he will probably come back. But if it's something like, pens or pencils or little, like crayons or those colored pencils and so on, where it's very, very cheap, and even if he's dropped it here, he could buy another one for the exact same amount from wherever he's living. So for those items, there's no need for you to make an announcement or an i'lan. What you can do, the person who's found it, it's like they say, finders keepers, you find it, you could actually use it and keep it yourself. There's actually a student in madrasa, he's got like a pencil case full of pens. So he actually said that the pens which he has in his pencil case, none of them he has actually bought it. He just like, finds it here and there, and he just like puts it in his pencil case and that's it, and he just uses it. So something like that, like pens and so on, where it's something which is small, something which doesn't have that much value, something which is cheap, you could find it freely, whatever. So there's no need for you to make an announcement. You find it, you can actually keep it and use it for yourself. And that's what is mentioned in the hadith here, that something minute or small like sticks or whips and so on, during Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, these were the things which are considered to be very, very cheap and not that expensive. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed the person who found it to start using it. So similarly, in our time and in our era as well, something small like pencils and pens, even if a person has dropped it, you could actually pick it up and use it, and if you want, you could even take it yourself. There's no need for you to make any announcement or to make any kind of i'lan. Now this then takes me on to the next point here, which I wanted to mention, is that is it permissible to make an announcement of a missing object, or that an object has been found in the masjid? So something which is a masjid, a place which is a masjid, can you actually make an announcement that, oh, £10 has been found in the wuzu area, or £10 has been found outside in the car park, can you make an announcement or an i'lan of it in the masjid? Now remember one thing, when we talk about masjid, we mean a masjid which has been designated as a Shari'i masjid. A temporary place of worship or a musalla, they're not considered to be a masjid. So just say for example, if there's a building which is a musalla, a temporary place of worship where Muslims just gather temporarily and they pray namaz there. So that is not in the hukum, that is not in the ruling of a masjid. So therefore, if somebody found an object, say in such a building, and if he was to make an announcement or an i'lan in that particular room or building, then there's no detestability, there's no prohibition or impermissibility regarding it. It's like, say, for example, at work you have a prayer room, or at universities you have a prayer room. So just say in that prayer room, that's not a masjid, that's like a prayer room, a temporary place of worship. So just say for example, some money was found outside, a mobile phone was found outside, and then you make an announcement and an i'lan inside that prayer room, inside that temporary place of worship, that would be allowed, that would be permissible. However, a place which is a masjid, a Shari'i masjid, which has been designated to be a place of worship and prayer, and remember, when something becomes a masjid, a place, when it becomes a masjid, it remains a masjid forever. Okay, you can't sell that building ever, you can't break it down, you can't, I don't know, like give it as a gift to someone. You know, there's no such thing as mirath or inheritance of that particular building, because when you donate a property as waqf or for the building of a masjid and for the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you are not the malik and the owner of that property anymore. That ownership now transfers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore there's no more buying or selling of that property. You can't gift it to anyone, you can't give it to anybody else, you can't sell it. It'll be totally haram, totally impermissible. So now when a place becomes a masjid, and going back to the ruling, if you found something outside, or just say for example, you found something inside the masjid building but not in the actual Jamaat Khana. So just for example, outside where the passage is, you found a mobile phone. Now in that situation, for you to come inside the masjid and make an announcement that I found a mobile phone, or I found some bundle of money, whoever it is, come and see me later, you are not allowed to make the announcement inside the masjid. Okay? It's mentioned in the hadith of Sunan Abu Dawood and also of Sahih Muslim that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that whoever makes an announcement of lost items or missing items or objects inside the masjid, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has used the word la addaha, which is like a badwa or a curse, that item would never ever be returned to him. Meaning that you, for example, you've lost an item, say, you come in the masjid and say after namaz you make an announcement, oh brothers, I've lost a mobile phone, anybody seen it, can you give it to me? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that that person who does that, la addaha, that mobile phone will never ever come back to him, meaning that he will never ever get that mobile phone, he will remain lost forever. You know, similarly, say for example, like you found something and you make an announcement for it in the masjid, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has also said la addaha, i.e. the original owner will never ever find that particular item. So what you should do is that if, say for example, these kind of items are found in the masjid, write on a piece of paper, stick it outside the wall and just leave it there. So if anybody did lose a mobile phone, anybody did lose some money, they'll be able to find it. But what you're not allowed to do is make an announcement for it in the masjid, because remember, the masjid is a sacred place. As mentioned in the hadith, that masjid, they are erected for one purpose, one reason, and that is li'iqamati dhikrillah, is for the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, the worships which we do, like Taraweeh, reciting Quran, Salah, Namaz, they are all dhikrullah, they are all remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now if you start then bringing worldly things, dunyawi things into the masjid, then what's the farq and the difference between outside and the masjid? So therefore Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wanted to preserve the sanctity and the ihtiram of the masjid, and he said that these kind of announcements don't make it inside the masjid, because there'll be no difference between outside and the masjid. So because obviously the thing is that we need to value a masjid. Problem is that the reason why we don't actually value the masjid, or we don't show that much respect, is because we don't actually know the respect and the adab of the masjid. Okay, masjid is something which is a very beautiful place, and it was the very first thing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did when he went to Medina Munawwara. Even before he actually stepped foot in Medina Munawwara, as you probably know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to a place called Quba, and the first thing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made there. And remember, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Quba, he was only there for 3 days. From Makkah, he went to Quba for 3 days, and then from Quba for 3 days, afterwards he went to Medina Munawwara. So you're probably thinking that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to Quba for 3 days, he'd probably be a bit jet lagged, a bit tired, he'd probably be relaxing and so on. No, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first idea he had was, let's make a masjid. And he's mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahabas, they worked together to make a masjid. Even the Sahabas, they were encouraging Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, oh Prophet of Allah, don't do this, don't move the rocks, don't move the bricks, we'll do it ourselves. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, I want to be sharik, I want to participate in this great thawab and great reward of building a masjid. So building a masjid is something which is very, very important. There has to be at least one in every ilaqa, in every area. But remember, the masjid is a place where the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is made, where there's like unity, there's ittihad, and it should be on taqwa. That's why in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises Masjid Quba, because as Allah says, La masjid ussisa ala taqwa. It's a masjid which was erected on taqwa and piety, meaning that it was erected with the sole intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the verse before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about another masjid. وَالَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا مَسْجِدًا ضِرَارًا, a masjid al-dirar. And masjid al-dirar, as Allah says, their intention was وَتَفْرِيقًا بَيْنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, to cause separation and tafriq between the believers. This masjid al-dirar, it was actually built by someone called Abu Amir. He was a munafiq, he was a hypocrite. So he made that masjid not with the intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but with the intention to kind of cause some division within the Sahabas and the companions. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was told about it, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to go and burn that masjid down. So what we can derive is that masjid is a place of spirituality, it's a place of liqamat dhikrullah. It's not a place of fighting, it's not a place of causing ikhtilaf within the Muslim ummah. It's a place where people can gather, they can learn about the deen, they can practice their deen and the religion. So that's what we're saying, that there should be some kind of spirituality in the masjid. And if you start making announcements about worldly things in the masjid, then what's the difference and the farq between masjid and the outside world? May Allah give us the tawfiq to act on what he said.